Hello, dear friends. Ruslan Belov is at the microphone. Let's start with politics for just a minute, then move on to the front, where there's plenty to discuss from the past 24 hours. Yesterday, Politico published a piece saying that Zelensky, in conversations with his European partners, declared Ukraine's readiness to fight for another 2 and 3 years. Yet just a few days earlier, a different story leaked from the Ukrainian Rada. Apparently he told MPs there that everything might be over by November. Two completely different messages, two different audiences. The question asks itself, who is he lying to? The answer, I think, is obvious, not the people he's financially dependent on. This is yet another reminder of something I've been saying for a while now. There are no real conditions for the war to end this year. Not a single one. The front is active, both sides are pressing forward, and the negotiations collapsed before they properly started. So brace yourselves. This is going to be a long story. Now to the front. The news from the past 24 hours is good, and the breakdown will be thorough. There are many directions to cover. Kharkiv direction. Granovo taken, Kazachia Lopan next. We start with Army Group North. Over the past day, their fighters pushed the Ukrainian armed forces out of the border village of Granovo in Kharkiv Oblast and took it under control. At first glance, it looks like just another small border village. Nothing special, but it's not that simple. Fighting for this settlement lasted more than a week. The Ukrainians reinforced it, not massively, literally a platoon, but the fact that they bothered to reinforce it at all tells you they considered Granovo worth holding. On top of that, they also lost Veterinoye around the same time, meaning two strongpoints on this stretch disappeared practically simultaneously. Now the fighting has shifted to the neighboring village of Shevchenko. Video footage shows Russian forces already expanding their zone of control in that direction, with forward positions right on the edge of the settlement. My estimate, it falls within 1 to 2 weeks. Maybe sooner. I always go pessimistic on timelines, but the reality is that the Ukrainians are unlikely to hold it. After Shevchenko, the fighting will almost automatically roll into Kazachia Lopan. That's a serious town with a sizable garrison. If fighting starts there, it's going to be heavy, possibly lasting the entire summer. But taking Kazachia Lopan opens up two directions for Army Group North to develop. Either towards Zolochev, pushing additionally from the border, or towards Saltino with a general vector on Kharkiv. An interesting picture is forming, but first things first, you have to get to Lopan, Zaporizhzhia direction. Stepnohorsk, a graveyard of Ukrainian hardware. Now to the Zaporizhzhia direction, where there's also something worth discussing. The situation around Stepnohorsk is telling. Russian sources report that the settlement has effectively become a massive graveyard of Ukrainian equipment and manpower. The Ukrainians keep pulling in reserves, but counterattack activity has dropped noticeably. Russian forces are working drones hard against personnel, and Ukrainian units are essentially stuck, unable to push further south. Ukrainian sources were confidently claiming not long ago that Stepnohorsk was fully under their control, along with Primorske, and that pressure was already heading towards Kamenskoye. None of that was confirmed. It looks like Ukrainian reserves on this stretch are being ground down, and a Russian counterattack could come in the near term. If that happens, the movement would go towards Veselyanka, Grigorovka and Rechnoye. We'll watch. Zaporizhzhia direction. The main event. Breakthrough near Orakov. Now the most important thing that happened in the last 24 hours. This is Army Group East's area of responsibility, and what happened here is something people had been waiting for almost 3 months. The powerful defensive line the Ukrainians built along the villages of Verkhnaya Tersa, Vozdvizhenka, Rozdestvenskaya has been definitively broken. Verkhnaya Tersa was taken a few days ago. Yesterday, footage arrived from Vozdvizhenka, 11 flags from different points across the village. For context, Ukrainian resources habitually dismiss any flag footage as flag-planting stunts. But when you're shown 11 flags from practically every corner of a settlement, that's hard to wave away. Neutral sources confirmed it as well, a 1.5-kilometer expansion of the control zone through residential areas, with Russian forces reaching the western edge of the village. What does this mean in practical terms? The path to Orakov, more precisely, a flanking approach into its rear, is now open. That's what matters. A frontal assault on the city is a tough task, but hitting it from the rear changes everything. If Orakov faces simultaneous pressure from the north, east and south, three sides, the Ukrainian armed forces simply won't be able to hold it. That's not a forecast, that's arithmetic. On the Hulyai-Pol direction, heavy fighting continues right at Hulyai-Pilske. As of recording, no information had come in about it changing hands, but given how the situation is developing after the fall of Vozdvizhenka and Verkhnaya Tersa, it's only a matter of time. Reports also came in about Ukrainian attempts to cut off a salient. Movement from Radostnoye and Novoye Zaporizhzhia towards Rybnoye. Unconfirmed for now, most likely small reconnaissance and sabotage groups that slipped into the depth of the Russian defensive zone. As for what to expect in the coming weeks, there's not much left of May, so nothing significant is likely before June. But June looks interesting. From the Verkhnaya Tersa side, the advance will push west towards Dolinka and Kopani, roughly 3-4 kilometers. Dolinka might slow things down briefly, Kopani probably won't. There are literally a street and a half there. From the Vozdvizhenka side, the push goes towards Lesnoye and Danilovka, with subsequent pressure on Lyubitskoye, a bit further, 5 to 6 kilometers. But Army Group East will reach those settlements in June regardless. On Orakov itself, cutting the road near the city won't hit their supply badly. The main supply route runs from the Zaporizhzhia side, but losing a Melnik, which would follow once the southern flank is isolated, means the beginning of the collapse of Orakov's northern defenses, and that's what eventually brings the city down. Whether that happens in June, July or August, I won't predict. What I will say is that it will happen, 100%. Dobropoye direction. No map changes from the Dobropoye direction as of recording, but the fighting is active. Russian forces are expanding their control zone north of Novo-Alexandrivka and moving towards Mern, Vasilivka and Hulyiv. Heavy fighting continues in Biletske without a clear advantage either way. Military correspondents assess that the push towards Dobropoye will come through Biletske rather than from Grishino. It's the more logical route. Quiet for now, but a live direction. Konstantinovka direction. Ukrainians in a cauldron. Interesting news from the Konstantinovka direction. The map formally shows no changes, but reports indicate that part of the Ukrainian forces on this stretch have been encircled. According to available information, Russian troops moved in from the flanks, cutting off the central Ukrainian grouping. On top of that, Russian forces are also expanding their control zone from the northeast. One telling detail, Ukrainian sources have already started preemptively dismissing the significance of Konstantinovka, saying the city had no strategic value. That's a classic move, preparing the audience for bad news. It usually starts a few days before a loss is officially acknowledged. The situation there for the Ukrainian armed forces, by all appearances, is already critical. Worth noting separately, clarifying footage arrived from Verolyubovka. Russia's Ministry of Defense had previously claimed the capture of several villages in that area, but the footage from Verolyubovka shows ongoing fighting and the settlement still under Ukrainian control, so information on that stretch needs further verification. Slovyansk, Lyman, Kupiansk. On the Slovyansk direction, fighting has continued for several days on the approaches to Ray-Oleksandrivka. Some sources reported Russian forces entering the settlement, but no confirmation has come. Most likely the situation will resolve all at once, a wave of footage from multiple points arriving simultaneously, as usually happens. On Lyman, Russian forces continue pressing from the north and east. No map changes yet, but the direction remains active. On Kupiansk, fighting is ongoing around the city itself and near Kupiansk-Vuzlovyi, with Ukrainian positions taking hits near Kovsharivka and Novosionov. No advances recorded, but the situation there is unsettled. Sumy direction. Pocket cleared, Novodmitrivka next. Good news from Sumy Oblast as well. Russian forces have fully cleared the entire pocket on this stretch. All of that territory is now under control. Yesterday brought confirmation of Ryasnoy falling. Today saw confirmation of the zone of control expanding and the entire pocket being cleaned out. On Novodmitrivka, footage arrived from the western part of the settlement showing Russian forward positions. Essentially, they're already standing at the far edge of the village. We're waiting for an official announcement from the Ministry of Defense. Reports are also coming in about an expansion of the control zone towards Mauritania and Sadki, but without confirmation for now. Summary of the day. Over the past 24 hours, 2 more settlements came under our army's control. That makes 4 in 2 days. Territory numbers are solid too. Another 31 square kilometers. The end of May is turning out to be strong. A week ago, the monthly statistics were shaping up to be genuinely disappointing, but the last few days have turned things around significantly. The headline event of the day is the breach of the defensive line on the Orakov direction. That's the hard-won result of nearly 3 months of grinding combat. Now let's see how Army Group East puts that breakthrough to use in June. There's also something worth saying about the negotiation progress that's been actively discussed in Western media over the past few weeks. Trump has once again signaled that he wants peace, and once again said nothing concrete. Everything is playing out according to the formula we all know by now. Loud pressure on Kyiv, much quieter pressure on Moscow. Meanwhile, the Europeans are increasingly trying to present themselves as independent players. Macron is once again talking about strategic autonomy. Britain is once again making promises to Ukraine. But the reality is that without American money and intelligence, the Ukrainian machine operates in a completely different way. Everyone understands this perfectly well, which is exactly why Zelensky tells the Europeans about 2 or 3 more years of war. He's milking them. And they keep paying, because they have no other choice if they don't want to admit that this whole story turned into a failure. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. Because I'm working for you, please support me by subscribing and liking. See you there.